A cheerful and energetic morning to each one of you. I hope you all are in the pink of your health and making your days productive. Let's make it more powerful and motivational with today's session. I, Mahima Sindhi, on behalf of the entire MMDU family, extend a hearty welcome to each one of you to our series of live sessions where we bring expert professionals and celebrated artists on board to share their pearls of wisdom and their juices of life experiences to learn from. In the words of Sean Barnes, when people try to understand your new company, they will use stories. The story may include metaphors like they are Google for sheep herding or use personal anecdotes. Stories come in all shapes and sizes. Unfortunately, most of the time, your story will be told by someone else. Hence, it's important to craft a positive story that others will tell on your behalf. If you are successful, you may eventually have someone tell you the story of your company without realizing it is your story. That is the most fulfilling feeling a founder can have since it means you have succeeded in spreading the story you are building. Henceforth, successful strategy is more than a roadmap. It's philosophy put into a plan, flexible enough to adapt over time, but concrete enough that it can never be misinterpreted. Its foundation can be built on untested assumptions or outdated data from as few as 2 years ago. Let us all hear the inspiring tale evidently showcasing about unrevealed startup strategies and virtually taste the fruits of life voyage of none other than a venture capitalist, an aspiring lawyer, and the head at startup partnerships in India and USA at Freshworks, Mr. Shiva Sharma. We will have Sir with us after a quick break.
पापा
हम्म?
ये थोड़ा मेरी तरफ से।
ओ बेटा बाप को पैसे दे रहा है।
अरे नहीं पापा, इट्स जस्ट अ थैंक्स।
किस बात का?
वो आपने कहा था ना, कहाँ पढ़ना है वो फैसला बड़ा होता है। जिंदगी के 4 साल का सवाल नहीं, सवाल पूरी जिंदगी का है।
Maharishi Markandeshwar deems to be University, Maulana Ambala, preparing you for the real world.
We will have Sir join in a couple of seconds and then I shall take the opportunity to formally introduce him. Meanwhile, can I get to know from the audiences if you are a budding entrepreneur or have you already started off with a brand and how well are you doing in the market? Any struggles that you're facing with? We will then try to answer all the questions now. How many of you aspire to be an entrepreneur per se? Hi, sir. Warm morning. How are you?
Hey Mahima, I'm good. How are you?
I am good. Thank you. So, let me take this opportunity to formally introduce Sir. Mr. Shiva Sharma, Head Startup Partnerships in India and USA at Freshworks, is an individual who believes strongly in the power of community and networking to enable growth. A creative professional working towards nurturing the startup ecosystem, Mr. Sharma has been closely working with entrepreneurs and professionals to build businesses by providing the necessary mentoring and networking opportunities and organizing effective events. Sir is an active player in seeking partnerships with the leading brands across the country to get the best of deals to support the community in the best possible ways and is extremely passionate about building scalable ventures along with a data driven mindset with a knack of experimenting. Mr. Shiva is a big fan of problem solving and working towards building a better ecosystem for early stage entrepreneurs, working closely with investors to help connect them with the potential startups, providing them access to the talent pool, and on the other hand, fostering startups to be proficient enough to reach out to the right segment of investors to showcase their ideas and exponential growth strategies. Let us discover some insights of his inspiring journey. So, sir, we'll have a quick question answers round via which we'll get to know more about the business strategies which still remain unrevealed. So my first question to you is how has your journey been from being a co-founder at Peer Hack in the year 2014, even much before you graduated college, to now being the head startup partnerships in India and USA at Freshworks? So how was your journey, and basically what all roadblocks did you surpass, or was it a smooth ride?
Thanks, Mahima, first of all, for a detailed explanation about me. It's been a great journey till now. I've got to learn a lot. Learning never stops for any entrepreneur or founder. It's only the assimilation that sort of takes place after some few years. Initially, it's all about the learning about across from all access points, data points that you can. You don't know how you can do it, but in hindsight, then you can sort of connect data points and say, okay, fine, I learned this, and this is now being able to utilize later on. You very well, just sort of before I get to this question, right? You mentioned across, how Google also sort of did stuff. Uh, so I just wanted to mention at one point across. I just remember that uh, as an entrepreneur, right, you always say that this is the next Google or the next Uber in different regions across. Uh, there are still a few products that Google sort of ventured into, but they couldn't scale.
Yeah.
Products like Google Notebook, that Notion has beautifully sort of captured the market across. Evernote became like a great place to do it. So maybe now that mentality of founders, right? They don't have that sort of mental block anymore. And what if next year Facebook or Google comes into the picture?
Hmm.
Now they have that belief that even we can fight for it if our product
Correct.
is the champion across for it.
Hmm.
Uh,
Correct.
yeah, so I think nowadays it's a different mindset altogether that has come into play. Now coming back to the question that you asked, for me it's been a great journey. Initially it was more about organizing hackathons, boot camps across while I was in college. PRAC was a community led, a community led growth across over there. From there to now, I think I've learned a lot. I have made very good friends across in the ecosystem, ranging from different founders, great founders, ecosystem enablers, VCs, that actually, are like the second friends for founders. Uh,
Yeah.
you know, I've seen the ecosystem actually support each other and grow across from where it was from 2014 maybe till now. Uh, of what if you want to have key learnings for it, I would definitely say one is the resilience of founders. Uh, Maybe in the last 2 years, COVID has taught a lot to us.
Yeah.
People who were doing or having regular tractions across till 2019, 2020, simply had to pivot in order to survive. People who had longer watches, that whole period from March, first week of every last week to April, when the pandemic sort of hit across over here, uh, people actually had to go back to the roots and say, okay, fine, we want that 18 months runway across for us. Every VC pushed for it. Every founder at the back of the mind knew that it's going to be a long journey across. I think the resilience is one point that has definitely that has come into picture. Secondly, that has come into picture is that you can always have cooperation rather than competition at all times. If you think you as a founder, or if you want to take it out as a solo founder, uh, it's very tough across out there. You need people around you, your team, your first hires, people, maybe even your champion or word of mouth, that initial cohort of people who can be your moat around you. Uh,
Correct.
when you have that sort of support system, I think there's a very high probability that your startup might work out, or maybe gives you a better launch pad to go ahead on.
I think that's a very, fine way of telling those two qualities. I mean, resilience, definitely, because that is the need of the hour. If you can stand tough in situations, because COVID has been one such learning for everybody, and people have come out, triumphantly out of that. So definitely resilience, and like you said, instead of competition, having that collaborative effort, because competition would definitely give a kickstart to whatever you do, but then definitely, uh, you know as in how we move forward, we understand it's the interdependency of everybody and anybody whom we are involved with. So collaborative efforts can actually take up to big ventures. So definitely very nicely quoted, sir. So moving on to the next question, today with evolving market categories and product range, it is such a tough decision to decide which market to penetrate in. So what is, according to you, the safest market to play around with assured profit, specifically for college graduates?
So very honestly, and without sort of put banding it out or rolling it into dough, no market is easy, right? You need to do your basic checks and basic hygiene across in any venture that you want to start for. Uh,
Hmm.
don't think of it as being very cool that you sort of enter into entrepreneurship. It's a very hard journey. It's a very lonely journey across. Uh, the fact is that it comes inherently from you, that you have a problem statement that you want to solve. You have maybe personally seen that out, or you've got that data from your early set of users that you've talked to, right? uh,
Mhm.
Identify those problems very quickly. See, in terms of when you're just starting out, right, do a lot of pilot projects, do those low hanging fruits across, that you can spend very less amount and you can actually get good data from them to actually validate your idea. uh, Having said that, I think looking at the market sentiment across Web 3.0 and EdTech are the startups that are still having a lot of fuel inside them. So a
Mhm.
lot of people have experimented in them. A lot of people have gone into maybe health tech also. Maybe that was due to the COVID scenario across in the last 18 odd months. But I
Right.
think going forward also, there is going to be a lot of consolidation across in EdTech. Larger players have already started acquiring a lot of smaller players. There's a very organic, mergers and acquisitions that are happening across. Maybe for the smaller players, you can actually create your niche in that whichever segment that you want to cater to, right? Uh, it's always better to make a champion product that becomes like a point out earlier. It becomes a resident product. I know of a founder who he's at $1 million ARR and he's completely bootstrapped. He does not want to go onto the venture route also. So maybe that sort of building the journey takes time, obviously. But
It
if you
does.
can stay true to your roots, right? If you can be sure of the idea that okay, fine, this is a problem that is validated across,
Hmm.
then whatever domain you want to be in or vertical you want to be in, be over there. I
Right.
personally love SaaS. I think that is the future across. And maybe in the next 2 to 3 years, we might actually see a lot of more, SaaS unicorns come into the picture over here.
Yeah. I think again, very nicely said. It's about having the conviction in your own product. If you think your product is a champion product and can, outdo the other products that are already existing in the market, I think you have a niche over there. If no, then probably you need to work, a lot on that. It's like I might have 10 things to say about what I have to offer, but what exactly am I offering? If that is not rock solid, probably I'll fall short there. Very nicely quoted. So, moving on to the next question, in continuation to the marketplace diversification that we were just talking about. So, how can one compete with brands so well to do already existing in a new product with a new product in the market? So, it is easy to prove one in front of brands like Amul, Gagan, Maruti, where can some things, brands which our parents know of and they're not ready to move to. If I offer something in comparison to, let's say, a Verka product, they might not really be ready to shift in terms of the choices. So how can one compete with such kind of brands which are probably greater in history than our own age when we talk about Gen Z?
I think that's a great question across, right? That's first of the roadblocks that anybody see.
Yeah.
If it's a D2C product, if I may say, maybe generalize all the products you mentioned across, right? The first thing that we do see is how the users want to react to it. Are they have high adoption for it, or if it's going to be more of just a discovery platform, and you don't have recurring customers coming in. Uh, a funny anecdote of crossover, right? Amul also, when they initially started, there was some other brand that was existing at that time.
Yeah.
And when they, I'm not remembering the name of that brand, but Amul even had to sort of change the color of the butter from white to a yellow so that people have more adoption of their product. Uh,
Hmm.
that is something like that you can't be taught across, right? That is something only when you go to the market, then you get that feedback out, right? And then you
Correct.
realize that okay, fine, people
Hmm.
might even judge us, not even obviously they'll judge us the product in terms of how it looks like, or
Right.
maybe if it's a finish, it has a finish or not, or how what's the packaging like. But no one
Yeah.
can sort of imagine, people will have a higher adoption if it's a yellow color or a white color. uh,
Exactly.
so so when you're saying talking about more into D2C product, right, I think the market has is tremendously grown across. Again, in the last 2 odd years, I know people over at Fireside who are doing great work in terms of helping those maybe purely D2C startups to actually grow across. You have people from Huddle in Delhi NCR itself who are actually doing this out also. Uh, People have now realized that D2C as a category is a very large player to be in.
Yeah.
There's a very nice quote, and that comes across from the more on a business side of it. That if you want to actually grow as a product, you can be a choti ilaichi in a badi market. So
Yeah.
basically, that typically translates to that, you can have any product that you want. Just
Yeah.
make sure that you become that most important player in that particular
Correct.
category, right?
Correct.
Take the high volume game, take it any way that you want to sort of become the market leader for it. There are n number of ways of going about it. You want to break into, let's say, if you want to increase your adoption across for it, you have great discovery platforms across for it. You have cred, you have different offers that are running across. You have different marketplaces that actually support it. Amazon has a full Amazon launchpad specifically for startups who want to maybe sell more across on their launchpad. So you have
Yes.
n number of opportunities to go for discovery route. If you want people to adopt more, maybe build out a more storyline across.
Hmm.
I still remember,
Correct.
that whole connect that people have maybe with uh, mother-related products and newborn mothers and kids across. So they have a very relatable factor maybe towards something like a Mama Earth.
Yeah.
So it's all about how you're building out your brand, and then maybe growing across from them. It'll take time. For D2C products, you can't have a very small company. You'll have to see what that adoption curve is. You have to see if you need to educate people about it, or if it's more in terms of, you've identified a product that maybe is available in the market and you can
Yeah.
capture it very soon. Then it's a win-win situation. The customers are spoiled for choice, and you
True.
as founders who are building that product have hit the jackpot across.
Definitely. I think again in a very everyday example, like you quoted, be that choti elaichi. So become that essential that people would anyway want that in their tea for their tea to taste good. So you would have tea leaves and everything as a part of it, but then if that one different factor is there, that USP if you can make, so why not would people want to invest in your product? And then playing around, and I think again when we were talking about the first question, resilience comes into play. So you have to keep going whatever be. So that's how you can definitely ensure your place. Very nicely quoted. So moving on to the next question, they say creating a plan in which we put down multiple hypotheses and envision different scenarios for how a particular startup will maneuver is its way to success. So what are your thoughts on it?
Uh, okay. Give me a second. I think this is an interesting question, if I may say, right? Uh, Creating a plan in which we put down multiple hypotheses. Uh, I think that's a great way of going. Very honestly, first, they say put all your eggs in one basket. Though you don't put all your eggs in one basket across, right? But in terms of you're just starting out, right, and you have multiple ideas that you want to sort of maybe experiment on, it's always good to put all of them in a single basket and see which what your time is, how much ROI you can put across, or how much money maybe capital that you have
Hmm.
to actually maybe try around those different ideas. It's always good. I think using the business model canvas is the best approach in these terms. That will actually help you in terms of understanding, what your product is, what the value proposition for it, who are the key partners, and maybe understanding for each idea and each hypothesis, what's the whole roadmap that we need to take. Maybe having that, maybe a 360 approach towards it, maybe as student entrepreneurs are just venturing out, right? You might not have a lot of data points across it. But when you look at it from a purely data driven approach, right? You understand, what exactly are you trying to solve.
Correct.
I've seen most of the ideas either getting validated just by putting them down, and looking at, what needs to be done to maybe do that out.
Correct.
And maybe the fab gets removed at day zero itself. And maybe you've actually saved yourself 1 or 2 quarters of wasting time just to understand if it's doable or not.
Correct. Correct. Very rightly put. And I think this is exactly what, when we were doing commerce in grade 11 and 12. So this is what we were taught, told basically and explained about planning, and then having plan A, B, C, and D, and then cutting across which works best for you. And then you have the best possible solution working for you. So I think that blueprint and having a mix of all of that, I think that definitely works wonders for sure. So, moving on to the next question. Today, the customers are woke enough and are inclined towards purpose driven brands, like we talk. So, but bringing a purpose to a product comes with a very high price, else, one can manufacture a lookalike of what already exists in the market. So, how can one deliver customer value at an affordable price, specifically for startups who struggle with a lot of capital investment and capital crunch? So, how can they do?
Again, I'll have to say it's a great question across, right? Because pricing is something in the Indian market that's very, very important
Correct.
for any product, right? You need to understand while you are, just bring that to the market. and you do a lot of R&D to understand that point. It's not the price that you want the customers to pay. It's a price that you feel that for your product, the
Yeah.
customers will be willing to pay.
Correct.
Right? It's a very important distinction that you need to understand. Uh, for some, Netflix might be a good product to have even at
Yeah.
$600 or $800. Uh,
Hmm.
for others, they'll prefer maybe a Hotstar at 500 bucks for the whole year. Uh,
Correct.
so it's more about understanding what your customers want and how much they're willing to pay, irrespective of what product it is. Even Netflix had to go down their prices to like a 199. I don't know if it's a month or a year. I'm not sure, but even they have to revise the pricing according to the Indian ecosystem. Uh, so bringing that same analogy across for products, it's completely up to the founder, to be very honest, right? The connect that they have. Uh, some products can demand higher prices
Hmm.
because a lot of R&D has been put into it. Maybe you can optimize the logistics part of it. You can
Yeah.
optimize in terms of packaging, but in terms of when you say about the actual manufacturing of the product, right? It's only to a limit that you can optimize that out.
Correct.
If let's say if you're putting in stuff across over there that's 1,000 or 1,500 rupees a kg, right? The value of that product, that individual 10 gram, 100 gram, whatever that packets come into it, that will change. The unit economics that has to make sense for it.
Correct.
In terms of sort of, when you say that, customers are woke, I think that's mostly primarily driven about of the fact that, due to so many different brands being available to us,
Hmm.
we as customers now are spoiled for choice. And
Yes.
when we are spoiled for choice, now we need to understand, okay, fine, what is our preference across for it. Maybe
Correct.
till now we were given just like 5 options, and we figured, okay, fine, this is the one option for me,
Hmm.
and we'll continue using that option maybe for 4 5 years directly, and we'll not experiment a lot of into it. But
Very true.
now we have that option, right? That okay, fine, maybe I'll try this product for 3 months, 6 months.
Hmm.
If it's working for me, good. If not, already have 2 3 alternatives available for it, just to find what's working for me. And in
Yeah.
terms of the power, like the purchasing power that I mentioned across, right? Uh, Even after a product gets launched, right? You have n number of data points across for the product that to look at. Uh, at once, it might not be that the branding might not be in a way that to adopt to get maybe more first time users across.
Yeah.
Maybe the journey might be that people are either returning back from previous brands that they are not satisfied with, or
Hmm.
you're trying to look at people who might have lost in your funnel and then trying to bring them back. So you have n number of data points, and people do a lot of cross selling across, upselling across over there. If you are a brand of a product, then you can actually make one champion brand and then try to
Exactly.
maybe cross sell different products to it. So I think there's different ways of maybe putting out your product out there. Uh, and that's about, I think, when you say manufacture a look-alike and then sell it out, I think that's looking at it from a very short-term gain factor. Uh,
Hmm.
People who are actually working on these brands, they are not building on a product, they're building a brand. They
Correct.
understand the value of building that brand now.
Correct.
Nobody is in the market to maybe just come in, uh, uh, let's say, get 10 20% profit and then leave out, and maybe the brand dies out. Nobody
Hmm.
wants to do that out. They want to build those everlasting products. uh, we can actually, if I can maybe give an example, not from a D2C perspective, the new age startups are actually acquiring large titan and large businesses across that maybe existed for 20 30 odd years, and now startups have that capital to maybe merely acquire them and maybe get that whole database niche into it. So
Hmm.
if you can really actually create something and make your product the champion,
Yeah.
sky's the limit across for you.
Definitely. And just a follow-up question from here, since we were talking about, playing around with the price points, what the customer is actually willing to pay. So let's say, Lay's is something that has been existing all over. Even our kids and probably you and me and probably our parents have also seen that Lay's as a packaging, the blue color flavor, and then it added on to different baked varieties and whatnot. Some people liked it, some did not really like. They want that wo masala aana chahiye, wo chatpata flavor hi feel hona chahiye. So they move back to that blue lays, and that's how it has been. So let's say there's a new brand that comes up in the same product line. So and they've kept their pricing a little too higher, and maybe the taste is good, but then the customer is not willing to pay that higher price. So is it okay for them to lower down to a price, or would it be a bad marketing in their name then?
I think, like I said, right, it's completely up to the brand and the product across for it. If they feel in the short term that they can actually maybe decrease the price and adopt more
Yeah.
users across for it. And they believe in the product, right? People
Hmm.
are willing to take cut losses. Maybe initially, if they have that arsenal, that okay, fine, we can take losses at least for 1 quarter or 2 quarter, if we can actually get our product out there. Uh,
Yeah.
we believe in the product that once people start using it out, maybe if we increase it, maybe subsequently across for it, maybe
Yeah.
from a 10 rupee will increase to 11 rupee or a 12 rupee. Over time, if you have that adoption in people have a very high affinity towards the product.
Right.
You'll not lose a lot of customers on that base. Giving a
Right.
very small example across for it, right? If you want to eat Maggie, you'll not think about if it's a 10 rupee one or 12 rupee one. It's
Correct.
Maggie that you want, right?
Right.
Uh, I have seen top ramen, n number of products come and
Hmm.
go across, right? But they have
Yeah.
not been able to displace maybe the affinity that people have or the relevance that Maggie has as a brand. Hence,
Right.
for you, for you paying 10 rupees or 12 rupees will not matter across much.
Right.
Considering the same scenario across over here, if it's a new product, right? Uh, if you want to sell and maybe compete with Maggie, you'll first
Hmm.
have to make it more alluring for the people out there. If you want to sell it
Right.
at 12, then you're going head on with that with the market leader, right?
Yeah.
Then you need to do a lot of work into it. You can do it. That's completely up to you. As a founder, if you think that you have that perseverance and you feel that okay, fine, my product demands that out, then
Hmm.
go with that hypothesis, run it for a quarter, and see how many it is. Maybe
Correct.
change prices across in few areas, just to maybe look at the data again. Is pricing being one of the key factors that people adopt my product or not?
Right.
Again, if
Very.
you want to maybe do like a low key thing, right? Uh,
Hmm.
Again, that's a very business mind approach again, right? Talk to the people who are selling it out then. Just make
Right.
sure your product gets more visibility into their mom and pop shops, or maybe the
Yeah.
store that you have. जो
Correct.
दिखता है वो बिकता है. That is
Bilkul.
the the low key across for it. So
It
again,
is.
there are many keys many factors that you can actually experiment on and actually get good results out.
Very, I think very naturally, the way you talked about Maggie, I think anybody who's hearing this out, be it somebody who's a college graduate or maybe somebody who's a school student or somebody who's already into business, I think they will actually understand this. So I myself am looking back, so I never go and ask what is the price of that Maggie packet that I'm buying, whether it has increased by rupees 2 or 3 or 4, because I've never realized what is the actual price. In the beginning, of course, when I was a child, I knew एक Maggie ka packet 10 rupees ka tha, that's it. We were 12, 13, 15, and then we've come to buying those family packs and whatnot. So probably I've not even realized if I'm paying more the price or less the price, because I believe in the brand and I want Maggie, so I'm okay to pay whatever, like you said. So having created that credit worthiness in the market, people will then of course purchase. And it's a very similar example. I mean, yesterday only I asked my driver to go get butter for me. I wanted to have bread and butter. So that Amul butter, the normal one, the yellow color, that's for rupees 50, 250 grams, I think. And then the garlic butter is for rupees 51, only with the
Hmm.
difference of rupees 1. And I wanted to have that garlic butter because it tastes better. And then when I actually asked if it was available, he said nahi, it's not available, iski selling nahi hai itni. I said क्यों, 1 रुपए का फर्क है तो why is it कि आपके पास इतनी selling नहीं है? He said because लोगों को पता नहीं है, वो व्हाइट बटर से येलो बटर पे कन्वर्ट होते होते हुए, सो अभी दे आर नॉट ओके विद दे आर नॉट टू श्योर अबाउट गार्लिक बटर, जबकि देयर इज जस्ट अ डिफरेंस ऑफ रुपीज 1. So probably that awareness of course comes
So
as
in
a key.
terms of this, right? A very great example. Maybe I just want to add on to it, right?
Yeah.
In terms of when you're bringing out a new product, right? Then you have to figure out. See, you already have a champion product. You already have the revenue that are coming in. You have sufficient runway to actually experiment out. And we're talking
Correct.
about the giant over here, right? Not a
Yeah,
new age start.
that's
But
what.
we can take analogy across from them. Even for a new product for them, they have to understand what how the market responds. They can't
Correct.
go and maybe use the same economics across for that product. They'll test it out in different areas, see if
Yeah.
it might work in some areas, it might not. Then in the areas it's working, then they'll fluctuate the pricing a bit, because what they have is a large network of selling.
Yeah.
They have large demand across that can be generated for them. But
Hmm.
at the end of the day, if the customer is not buying it, they can only buffer that out for a particular period of time. They can't
Right.
fill that out till eternity across for it. So maybe
Exactly.
for them, even that 1 rupee difference is what they are banking on. That maybe if
Hmm.
you keep the pricing very similar across, that people will tend to maybe experiment into that.
Correct.
The product packaging remains the same, the logistics remains the same. There's going to be only one or two process that's different across from a normal butter to a garlic butter. So for
That's what.
them, that's not a lot of, maybe I'm hoping, like, I don't want to be quoted across the way that there's a lot of change in the process, but
Yeah.
for them, they want to understand what the future is in terms of they want to experiment with more products in the line.
Exactly. I
So,
mean, and technically speaking, that tastes even better than a regular butter. I mean, with that garlic butter, you can probably have breadsticks and garlic sticks all, made at home. But then still
so,
people, even
so you are the target audience for them, right? They'll define that out. They understand. Okay, fine, and that is where I think D2C has just become a champion across the world, right? They have more data points to look at. They know, and they have better target personas across customer personas, and they can
correct.
actually sell better across over there. Again, that's
Correct.
my thesis, and I think that has worked out for most of the digital first brands.
Yeah, very true. So moving on to the next question, since we've talking about entrepreneurship and startups and everything. So Shark Tank India. So it, as we all know, it was an amazing show that was aired on Sony with its rating touching skies and beyond. So sharks always had that one particular question that they used to ask from all entrepreneurs, and I loved it. I mean, whenever there was an episode that was on air, I used to wait कि अभी ये वाला shark पूछेगा या ये वाला shark ये same question पूछेगा कि आप बताइए आप problem क्या solve कर रहे हैं. This was something that they would talk about every single time in whatever pitch that was presented to them. So for launching the solution centric product for an entrepreneur, do customers always know that they have the problem, or will the company need to educate the market about the problem being solved?
I think there are two key points across over here. Both scenarios exist. A few times the customers do know the problem that they are facing, but they don't know what the use case are or what the use case can be across for those problems. Sometimes people have just come into a routine that they don't even acknowledge the fact that there's a problem in that process across for it. So
Yeah.
maybe talking first about first scenario, right? That people
Hmm.
know, okay, fine, this is the problem that I have. Maybe I'll give it more of a startup analogy across for it, right? As
Hmm.
a customer, if I have a problem and I know, okay, fine, I need to change this process, I will look at the alternatives that are available to me to fix that out. That might be in terms of using different SaaS companies, softwares across that'll help me maybe grow my business along with that. It might be in terms of you're looking about as a D2C product line that if you can change those components,
Hmm.
maybe on a different process across and maybe get those ingredients from a different place, then you will maybe look at the vendor point of view, and then you'll maybe try to tweak that process out a little bit. So
Right.
when the customer has any problem, right? They do come out, they look at it, they understand. Okay, fine. This is a product right for me. This is not the right fit for me. If you're looking at getting leads, any number of scenarios exist for it.
Hmm.
When a customer is woke enough to realize that there's a problem, they might be searching across for it. They might be looking at different forums for answers. So in terms of the marketing from the founder side of it, right, it becomes a little easier for target those people out
Yeah.
because they know that the problem exists. They have their own thesis across for it.
They'll be
But
an
in
easy
terms of
pitch.
in terms of identifying that out, right, they're able to find more leads maybe from a LinkedIn, from a Pinterest, when
Hmm.
people are actually being open about it, or maybe through SEO, SEM across menu to identify people who are actually searching that out. Uh, the problem starts with people who don't even know that the process change happen or the problem exists across for that. If you are creating a product that's that's good to have, but it's not really a necessity across for it, right? Then you
Hmm.
have a very high route that you need to take across in terms of educating the people about it.
Hmm.
Taking your garlic butter example across for it. People will first need to be told, hey, this is a product available over here. It's similar to the pricing. We are not taking a lot of it, but it's a little different taste. You should definitely go for it. They might
Hmm.
run ads across for it. They'll do a lot of brand publicity across. They'll have posters across for it just to target that out. If it's different depending on which location they are targeting, right? Uh, you as a customer might if you're living in tier one, you'll have still more visibility in terms of new products coming into it. Tier two and tier three, there's going to be less visibility across over there. So for them to make that product into the champion product in those regions, they'll have to push more. Or maybe
Good.
they'll keep in their mind that okay, fine, this is a product, as a product has some inherent flaws into it. For this might be more important, again coming back from your butter product, right? This might be more relevant to a Delhi rather to a let's say a tier two city, or
Yeah.
maybe it's more beneficial across for US founders or Europe founders It might not show more synergies with APAC founders across for it. So n number of situations can happen across. I think it's more important as a founder when you think about it, right? The problem that you're trying to solve uh, is not just a problem that exists, but it's also a problem that's large enough, and you have a large TAM across for it. Uh,
Right.
if you're trying to solve a problem for a niche amount of people, right, and doesn't have volume, then you're just limiting your runway journey or your entrepreneurial journey into it.
Right.
When you're looking at a larger problem that exists, and I sometimes to identify those problems that can either be identified maybe in one month's time or 2 weeks, 2 months time. People sometimes take almost like 5 years just to define that problem. Okay, fine. This is the problem statement we are trying to solve. There's
Correct.
no magic behind it. It's proper pure and play hard work across from the founder. Uh,
Yeah.
People who are very clear in their thought process, and they can identify, okay, fine, this is the problem I'm trying to solve. I think that's half of the battle won, because they are very specific in terms of their approach from and from that moment of time. They know this is the problem, these are the people I'm trying to help out, these are the 10 things or 20 things I will do across. They can go in a very structured manner, and when you have that whole when your thoughts are collected in that manner, I think that's just a stepping stone to success across for me.
Definitely. I think very nicely put. And if you can explain it right in the beginning what the problem is, probably like you said, half the work is already done. And then it's just you working on the solution. And then, awareness, of course, has to be done. A simple thing as a garlic butter, like we are continuing with the example. Even that needs probably, people need to be told that if you buy a butter which is rupees 50, and if you buy garlic separately which is, let's say, 20 rupees, 30 rupees, I'm not sure about the price, and you mix and match all that products, probably the costing goes to 80. Instead you get a garlic butter, it's probably 51, that kind of thing. And then the Gen Z, we love consuming junk food, but at the same time we want to be on a healthier side as well. So probably creating your own products at home, be it a pasta or a garlic breadstick or whatsoever. So why not? Definitely. So moving on to
That's a
the,
perpetual question for everyone, right? We want to eat good food, but we also want to stay healthy.
we
So
want to stay healthy. So I mean, the this is what I remember when I was in college. I used to talk about my friends. So there are certain restaurants and outlets that have come with calorie chart to it. So if you're purchasing XYZ thing, there's this much calorie that you're consuming. So probably you would shuffle around कि किसमें कम calorie है, चलो ये खा लेती हूँ, taste तो better करेगा ही.
and
That
if you're
kind of
out and if you're out with friends, you'll finally eat something that you'll actually love, like a pasta or something.
thing. Very true. Very true. So, moving on to the next question. In your opinion, what kind of a person makes a successful entrepreneur?
There is no right answer for this, honestly speaking. I think I'll stick to the fact that I mentioned that maybe
Hmm.
somebody who's resilient enough to or has that belief in his or her product. Uh,
Yeah.
Person who will make sure that come what may, they are being true to themselves. If sometimes a product or idea is not working right, it's better to pivot up, pilot. There's no shame in doing that out as an
Right.
entrepreneur. uh, I think another thing I think is a very good learning curve would be that if
Yeah.
you are able to learn from the mistakes of others, uh, maybe if you're able to sort of gain knowledge uh,
Hmm.
from from someone's learning, someone's failure, I think that
Yeah.
puts you in the right path to actually go ahead and do your own thing. Uh,
Correct.
Otherwise, burning your hands and then learning that out, that's always a method that's available, but it's always preferable that you don't fall into that route. So it's just
Correct.
about making sure you're making your journey a little bit more easier,
Hmm.
and that's only very minutely, if I may say. And it's only going to give you more probability that your startup will then maybe work out.
Definitely. It's like you're not wasting your time exploring 10 options that might work or might not work. You have something already ready. I mean, we're not telling people to shy out from working hard. Definitely work hard, but then work it out in a smarter way. So, probably, yeah.
Go experiment on the 10 ideas if you have that time, if you have that bandwidth across the it, right? But over time, do refine it into one or two problems that you actually are very passionate about, and you actually think that the market exists. uh,
Yeah.
and always keep the feedback loop open. Just sometimes as founders, we are too much dedicated towards the idea of the product that we lose the bigger picture across over there.
I think, and if one can, work on that particular trait, be it a founder or probably a school student, or let's say a graduate or somebody who's already into business, or another profession, if we are open to feedback, I think it can change the direction and the action what we take in terms of what we want to do in future. Sometimes that feedback is very very necessary, but probably we shut our ears because we are so confident about what we've done that we don't want any negative comment coming up. So being open to critical feedback, I think that's a way that can take you to places for sure. So moving on to the next question, how can one determine one's startup cost and other expenses? Is there a simple formula to it?
There's never a simple formula, but keeping your finances in check is always good. You always need to understand what's your runway like I mentioned earlier, in terms of if you have what usually people sort of follow is that first you make sure that your employees are getting paid across for it. Uh, how much runway do you have for that? Then you have, if your fixed costs, such as you're sitting out of an office, you have electricity cost, you have internet cost, you sort of take that out. Then you have the founder who may or may not take component out of your expenses or your revenue out of it. But I think in terms of figuring all those overheads out, it's always good to sit with somebody who understands finance. uh,
Hmm.
I've seen people, burn $1 million in $10 million in a year, and still
Hmm.
not able to do it. I've seen people run companies for 2 3 years and still are not very knowledgeable across in terms of what the exact numbers are. If
Hmm.
if you're a smart founder, right, you'll, at the back of your mind, you'll have those metrics running in your play. You'll always know in terms of what their runway is going to look like. If you're looking at maybe if you're looking at getting investments or fund, you always know what that 6 months 9 months period that before your runway gets over, that you won't actually get into your fundraising mode. uh, when I say 18 months, it's not a practice, it's a fit that everybody follows, but I think that's a safe way of going forward.
Okay.
At times when you're going for follow-on rounds, uh, the conversations might take place 2 months, 3 months. If you're lucky enough, the conversations I've seen people, get over within a week, within a weekend also, to be honest. Uh, but the fact is, you always take out the assume the worst. I think it's something like, if I'm not wrong, it's something, assume for something but prepare for the worst. So the founder, always keep your worst possible option that can happen.
Yeah.
Murphy's law comes into picture. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong.
Yeah.
That happens on a day-to-day journey across. But yeah, it's always good to keep a check in terms of your expenses.
Hmm.
Always try, and that's what I personally believe, is always, when you're in an early stage of a startup, right, always try to maximize on getting more revenue out of it. But if you want to scale, if you're very much invested in your product, uh, it's absolutely okay to let go of revenue, or to maybe push more on scaling up.
Yeah.
At times, that's a chicken and egg story, and that'll just keep on going across.
Yeah, and I think this is something that's a hard reality as well. Let's say somebody who's not really educated, or probably doesn't know the terminologies and jargons about entrepreneurship, startups, and whatnot. A proper joint Hindu family business setup, or somebody who comes from the core where business runs in the legacy. So let's say that person opens up a hotel business. So it's usually said ki in the first 5 years of your hotel business, agar aapka cost or expense, I mean, what is your cost vis-a-vis what is your earning, agar wo bhi balance ho raha hai, then it is okay. Probably you're able to scale in terms of the number of customers who started coming up to your hotel, and then probably you can take forward. Because in the initial, I think, first 2 years, it's definitely, if you're not running in losses, and if you have enough revenue to meet up with the costing and the expenses that you've done in the business, I think that is okay. And then probably the scalability happens, and profits start coming up. So
Absolutely, absolutely.
just a quick question that I've got from the chat box. There is a person named Pankaj Poswal who wants to ask you a question, that what do you think about MBA professionals joining a startup as a first job after masters?
Okay, I think there's two pronged approach to this question, right? One is from the side of people who are actually joining startups, and also the second option is from the startup side of it, right? As a founder, if you want to bring in people who have actually done their MBA.
Yeah.
In terms of firstly, for the people who've done their MBA, or in their I think final semester across, and they are looking at different options, right? Startups, joining startups is a great place to learn. You've got a lot of theoretical knowledge. You know how plans can be made. You know how revenues can be achieved. You know a lot of stuff that has been taught across your MBA. Startups teach you about real life.
Yes.
What to do when when beep hits the fan, right? You learn about more of those firefights that happen across. It's a beautiful journey to be a part of. You are never just told exactly, okay, fine, this is what you have JDs across in your for every role, but it's
Yeah.
always given a buffer amount. Okay, fine, this is your growth period, right? Go out there, learn. You want to talk to different people with the same community. Go network out. In
Yeah.
startups, everyone has that cooperative mindset across. Uh, you don't have to stick to your one role there's nothing about rote learning. There's nothing about doing just giving an n number of hours a day or a week, and that's
Yeah.
it. You're done. Nobody has that mindset across in startups. The whole corporate MNC culture does not exist across over here. People are at times inherently invested into it. They have an urgent sense of urgency that sort of comes out into picture. Uh,
Correct.
and you talk about any role that you're talking about. You talk about the great role that the engineering does, or the sales team does, or the marketing team does, right? The n number of opportunities that are available across. And if you have an MBA, I think that actually add to your skill sets across over here.
Mm.
If you're looking at your first job after an MBA. Now
Right.
coming over to the founder side of it, right? Uh, if you're a very early stage founder, right? Having an IIT and an IIM used to be a tag, with your early hires. Nowadays, that tag has diminished quite a lot. But
Yes.
having somebody from, let's say, who's done his MBA across, right, is a great resource to have. You'll not have to maybe spend more time into teaching that resource, but a little more in terms of giving him or her that space to actually grow across for that role. Uh,
Right.
you as a founder are very open and very you have a lot of faith in that person when you hire them. You don't hire them just for the first 1 year or 2 year. You hire them as somebody who can actually maybe learn something from your startup within the 12 to 18 months or 12 24 months they are here, and then maybe go on to different journeys. It's
Right.
absolutely okay, right? We don't think that it's going to be a lifelong thing across over here, or the resource might not. It's all about the chemistry across over there. But
Exactly.
founders are very open in having people who have that experience, who can bring something different to the table. Uh,
Right.
having and again, having said that, I think having a completely new beginner across for it, right, who has very less knowledge of the startup system also entering into the picture, also is a very good, I
It
think, a
is.
key addition as a resource, because it's all
Definitely.
about assimilating across for them. Uh,
Definitely.
Working as a startup in a startup, maybe, and when I say startup, I mean a very early stage one, right? When you have
Hmm.
like a 5 to 10 member team, you don multiple hats. You get to talk to, it's always good to see an intern, or maybe somebody from marketing talk on a daily basis to somebody from engineering, actually
Yeah.
understand what is the product they are marketing, or what's the nuances of it, right? It
Yeah.
isn't very good deep insight. Maybe then they can maybe go into product management, different roles of it, and they can actually be the better versions of themselves.
Definitely. And I think actually, reiterate what you just said, the beginners, when we talk about, they're so open, and if they are skillable, if they are somebody who can be infused with those skills, if they have that learning attitude, I think, one day you will know that they have taken over your seats, and probably you're sitting as co-partners with them. So they have
and
that
and,
kind of.
and, you, and you'll be happy with that, and you'll be in terms of the setup and everything, you'll be
Right.
happy with seeing people that have come under your wing and actually grown across. uh
Definitely.
okay, you might have a few bad apples, I'll be very honest about that also, but the fact is, for most of the people across, they are happy to actually see people actually succeeding in life. They
Right.
and what not, if you might be a manager maybe at one point in time, maybe 2 years down the line you're actually co-founders with them.
That's what.
Anything can happen across over here.
Right. And I think startups are that kind of a play field wherein things like these can happen. I mean, in a proper setup business, probably that's not easy to go up to that level of hierarchy and, be on that chair. It's quite a difficult thing, and it's challenging. We know the reality. We already have 10 people lined up. So probably, even if Mahima is so good, they will not put me, directly to that particular chair, because I have to cross those hierarchies. Probably in
So
a startup,
red tapeism exists across in MNCs and corporate culture. But in terms of startups, when you talk about it, right? Uh, I think there's a genuine openness across on the field. Across border, uh, you might have different hierarchy, but everyone still believes in that flat hierarchy that exists. anytime, anywhere, if somebody has any questions and queries, you can have multiple people just put up their hand and say, okay, fine, come over here, I'll tell you what it is. Maybe that whole those learnings are something that maybe puts working at a startup far more in my eyes than working in a proper MNC across.
Right, couldn't agree more. I think thank you for a great question, Mr. Pankaj. I hope we were able to answer your question. So moving on to the next question. Can we have Sir added back to the screen, please? We'll get Sir added back on air very shortly. Meanwhile, if you have any other questions, we'll be happy to answer. You can put your questions in the comment section. So I think these insights that Sir has given us about startups and how to build a community and play around the field, I'm sure it's going to help many people who are listening us live. Yes. Moving on to the next question, is location the most important aspect of one's business? And what about cloud kitchens? Are those costs effective in comparison to opening a dine out outlet?
Uh, okay, that's just maybe I'll maybe oversimplify this. It's completely up to you if you're looking at maybe building out a cloud kitchen where you want to minimize your expenses and actually go for more penetration across in terms of the market. Uh, that's completely one way of doing business across for it. There is no, I think, benefit in terms of opening out a proper dine out restaurant or a dining restaurant, a fine dining restaurant, whatever that you want to build out, or doing out a cloud kitchen. That's completely your call as a founder how you want to build that out. Uh,
Yeah.
Rebel Foods absolutely killed it and slayed it when they sort of became the pioneer for doing this out. Uh, they figured maybe something like what McDonald's did across, right? That whole shift from a fine dining to actually getting your food across at a packet and just going maybe revolutionizing the way you eat and way you
Yeah.
consume. Uh, Maybe due to the pandemic, that has now again increased in terms of people ordering more across for it, and they have again spoiled for choice in terms of different brands that are coming up. But still people will not again I feel that they'll not stop going out and eating. If you want to go maybe have a cup of coffee once a week or maybe once in 2 weeks, you will still go out there.
Yeah.
uh, you will still have your favorites across come what may, different whichever region, whichever part of the nation you are. In terms of location being very important, maybe if you don't look at it from a hospitality industry or a restaurant industry across for that, right? I think the lines have blurred now. I lead the Fresh Off the Start program across, and I can vouch for the fact that when you are working in India and serving the globe, serving customers across and US, Americas, Europe, APAC, across different regions across where it's all about having faith in the product that you are working on.
Right.
If you inherently feel that that product is relevant across to those markets, is something that can actually help those entrepreneurs or founders grow. Uh, you know that is what will sort of sell across over there.
Hmm.
Location is independent at this point in time. If you want to operate from let's say for a region such as Americas, you can actually walk across in India and maybe go there once a quarter or maybe
Hmm.
once in 2 quarters and maybe do those physical meetups across over there. People
Right.
might not know who maybe Shiva is across over there, but they will know what Freshworks is, and that's what you maybe work towards, right? Absolutely okay if you don't know your founder, right? Or anybody who's working over there. If you know the product, I think you've done your job well.
Correct. And like I was talking in the beginning of the session, there'll be a day when people will come share your story with you without even knowing. I mean, it's your brand. I think that's what, as founders, we look for. Somebody telling you, you know what, Freshworks,
Yeah,
you'll be happy inside and smiling, and then hearing their part of the story.
so when I say when I lead the Fishmonger Start program, right? I am the most happy when I can actually find entrepreneurs who are actually getting benefited out of our activities and initiatives that we are running. We come with the whole thesis that we want to give it back, pay it back to the community. We've got a lot of good karma across from there, and we really want to help those early stage startup entrepreneurs grow and succeed across. We'll be the first people, along with their investors, who will actually
Right.
be happy in their growth. And if we can
Right.
be a part of that, I think maybe that comes in from most of us being ex-founders, or maybe most of us having this sort of synergies across for it. But we love it if we can actually help other founders maybe scale out, grow, and maybe become the unicorns and unicorns who are actually serving to the world from India.
Right. And I think that's an amazing work that you're doing out there. So kudos to you over there. So moving on to the last question, what are those three unrevealed business strategies you'd like to share with the budding entrepreneurs?
Okay, so in terms of three strategies, one is definitely that I feel comes heads over others is making sure you have all the data points that you require before starting out. That's not humanly possible, but make sure to assimilate as many points as you can. That'll actually help you plan better, help you clear out your ideas, your thoughts that you have in your mind, remove the faff across, remove the weeds from there, and be very clear and concise into it. I follow something of Carl Newport that he mentioned across in Deep Work. Have those sessions across over there. You don't need to spend 10 hours on an idea. Even if you have that 2 or 3 hours of deep work on it, right, you can do a lot in that period of time. So first is organizing your idea as well. If you can do that, I think half the battle is won. Secondly, after all the thought process is done, and I'll make sure it's in a storyline format, very honestly. After the step one is done, step two is always about going and executing it out. There's nothing like it. Anybody can have great ideas. At the end of the day, it comes out how are you executing that idea. So if you've thought about it, if you've done all that R&D for it, go and start it out. Make yourself, and make a little urgency for it. I want to hit this target in 1 week. I want to hit this target in 1 month. I want to hit this target in 1 quarter. Map yourself out, measure yourself out in terms of those targets, and look at it if it's working out or not. Give it 1 quarter, 2 quarter, 3 quarter. That's completely up to you as budding entrepreneurs, right? To put yourself into a limit, right? You can't keep on working on the same idea, and if it's not generating more maybe traction across for you, that matrix might be in terms of not getting more users, not getting more revenue, whichever that you it's your personal choice across for it, right? If it's not working, and if you're still very much interested, very much invested into your idea, maybe you're doing something wrong and you need to go back to the board, tweak the product out, and then maybe work again. It's always good to execute it out. When you do executing, then you will understand, okay, fine, this is a problem that I'm not even thought of. When you're executing and you're talking to customers, you might get such a feedback because, okay, when this is a feature that you should inbuild in your software. Or if you have like a cloud kitchen, this is, can you try this product out? I love eating it out. I love eating from your venture. But, these are very small products or maybe feedback that you get. But only when you are executing can you learn these out.
Exactly.
Thirdly, and most importantly, I come from a very different mindset when I say it. Not all startup ideas need investment. Clearly keep that into your mind. Don't jump the bandwagon that you need money from day zero to start out. You don't. Right? A few ideas do. People that are trying to solve a larger problem across, they have a larger TAM, and maybe they have a roadmap across to actually do that out. If you're an early stage startup entrepreneur who's just starting out, right? Try to keep it as small as possible. Keep it as lean as possible. Understanding your first set of 50, maybe, acquiring your first set of 50 customers, 100 customers, 500 customers. Go slow on there, right? Estimate that data, look how it's going on, keep the feedback mechanism on, and then scale out. At times I've seen people are trying to, run when they can't even walk. So it's always better to first build out a strong foundation. Don't think of it as a very short strategy across it, right? Don't think that investments or getting investments are doing is a get rich quick method. It's not. It's actually a very, very, like I said, it's a very lonely journey when you're bringing it out. You're actually trying to that whole problem statement that you have. You are very much invested into that idea. It might be maybe something like what I personally believe in terms of providing housing across in the co-living startup that I ran earlier. It might be in terms of a hospitality idea. It might be in terms of a cloud kitchen that you want to run across, right? It's absolutely okay to understand that you might not need external investment into it. Maybe if you want more, you can just go to your friends and family, get that whole initial capital that you require, and then go on to it.
Yeah.
If you can understand that point out, right? I think you're gonna have a better journey as an entrepreneur. That's my 2 cents across over here.
Lovely. I think very nicely put those follow up steps that you gave. I'm sure it's going to help a lot of people who've been hearing us out. So great insights. So I must admit that your life journey and successful achievements and career speaks volumes about your work. We've had plenty of takeaways and actionables to take home. Wishing you huge success, luck, and love your way. Thank you so much for joining in. It was an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Great to be here, Mahima.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. Stay tuned. We'll have more such sessions coming up. Thank you.